And welcome back to a fresh episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Sam Dunning, co-owner over at webchoiceuk.com. And if you haven't yet, check out our weekly email where we share actionable marketing tips, useful podcasts, free guides, bonus resources, and much, much more. Each and every Monday, start your week off with a bang. You can sign up over at businessgrowth.email. So with that said, my guest today is Silvia Coletto. Silvia is the owner over at the Paid Ads School. They provide a no-nonsense approach to paid advertising tailored to each and every business. Silvia, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I have been watching the lives and the podcast for quite a while. So, when I heard that you were looking for other people, I thought, well, why not? I mean, let me get on the podcast.
Awesome, and glad to have you on. So we're going to be chatting all things Google Ads, which
Exciting.
is very exciting. It's actually
I love it. You can see from my spot, I love that. I'm such a geek. I'm really sorry, but
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with loving Google Ads.
Yeah, love it.
So with that said, we're going to be talking all about how businesses can win with Google Ads. We're going to be giving some actionable strategies on how you can get stuck into them, set them up, how to drive leads, how to drive revenue, things to do, things not to do, and all that good stuff. So jumping straight in from the top, I guess. Are Google Ads really a cost-effective way for businesses to drive inbound leads or sales right now?
That is a great first question. And the answer is it depends. And I know that people don't like that answer because, well, of course, it's going to be you're going to be asking, well, why does it depend? What does it depend on? But the reality is it does depend on a lot of things. It depends on the competitors that you've got at the moment. It depends on the stage of your business. It depends on the niche. It depends on the budget that you've got on. And it also depends on everything else that you're doing in the business. How solid is the rest of your marketing? Because usually what businesses think is that the moment they start running Google Ads, all their sales problems are going to be solved. That it's going to be this magic bullet and everything is going to be great and we're going to be selling lots of stuff. So in their mind, Google Ads equals we're going to make sales. And if you start with that kind of mindset and with that kind of belief, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be really disappointed because making sales is not what Google Ads are there for. Sure, they contribute massively, but Google Ads doesn't equal sales. So in short, yes, the answer is it depends.
Yeah, because I guess that advert, the main job of the ad is actually getting someone to click it and then directing them
to the website. And for the website to be good enough to answer all the questions, to give all the information so that either the person is ready now and they get in touch, or the person is not ready now, but you're now firmly in their mind as one of the alternatives. So wherever else they're going in the customer journey, maybe they have to think about it. Maybe they go to one of your competitors. Maybe they go and ask some friends. Maybe whatever else they do. But there's always the option that now you've given all the information. So it is now the nurturing phase to get eventually to an inquiry or a sale, depending, of course, on the industry. If it's the case of e-commerce, it literally just they buy online. If not, they have to reach out to you. And there's then all the sales process that gets into the sale. So never as easy as visit equals we're going to make a lot of money.
And that's the same for most advertising. Yeah, exactly. And that's the same with most paid advertising, right? Whether it's a newspaper, a TV ad, whether it's digital advertisement, online advertisement, you can't guarantee that every click through, every visit, every view is going to turn into some kind of lead or revenue. So that's a good starting point. But perhaps we should peel this back a bit. Before we ask the question, Google Ads, yes or no, perhaps we should discuss what should be in place before we set up Google Ads, i.e., what do you need going rock and rolling right now before you switch on Google Ads? And are there any other marketing strategies we should exhaust or try out before we flick the switch and spend a load of cash and give Google our hard-earned money?
Yes, so I'm going to start with the last one first. So the caveat to all this is that if you do not have at least £1,000 to spend in advertising spend on Google Ads, and this is just the initial budget, like a testing budget, consistently, like month in, month out. And if you are afraid to spend this money because you're afraid to lose them, because it's going to make a massive difference if you lose the money, as in if that money spent in advertising doesn't generate anything immediately, do not run Google Ads. Do anything else. Put the money somewhere else where you know it's going to work in the short term, but do not spend any money on advertising that you're not comfortable losing. I'm not saying that you are going to lose money. I'm saying that if you're already still in a testing phase, if you're just starting, if you haven't figured out everything about the customer journey, the audience, like the ad copy, etc., and you are going to not see straight away the returns, which is what happens most of the time. If you're panicking at the idea of losing that money, you're not ready. Like, just don't do it. Don't put yourself through that stress. Having said that, if you are comfortable with that kind of spend initially, there are a few things that you have to do, and I actually have a checklist of these things, because it's really important that every time somebody says to me, hey, what am I supposed to do to get ready, that I give an exhaustive overview of what being ready means. And I'm just going to briefly go through some of them. For example, if you don't have a specific thing that you're trying to sell, if you've got a specific offer, you can define it. You can say, who is it for, the benefits, the future state, how is the person going to benefit from what you offer, how is the situation going to change after working with you. And if you're not able to remove the obstacles, and you don't know what they're worried about when they're thinking about a purchase like this, or everything in the journey that says, I think this could be good for me, but I'm not really sure. Right. And you don't know what those uncertainties are. You're not going to be able to write copy, or either on the ads or on the website, that reassures the person that, yeah, I know that you're afraid about these things. I already know, because I know you, because you're my customer. So I'm telling you straight away, this is the reassurance to your fears. These are the things that I know you want to know. Let me just give you the content straight away instead of wondering.
Got it.
So this is about the offer. Then and this is more applies also to the customer journey. So do you know what your specific customer does from the moment they think, oh my God, I need something, or I've got a problem, to the moment when they come to you for the solution? What are all the things that they do, like to research and find out what they need? You should be able to say, yes, I know exactly, not the order, because it's different for every person, but exactly where they go. And my marketing is supposed to be present in those places. So if I know that people are on Reddit, be present with content on Reddit. If I know that it's Instagram, be present with content on Instagram. So it's not just the Google Ads. It's about Google Ads working with the rest of the marketing. If you don't have everything else in place, marketing is an ecosystem. If you don't have everything else in place, the Google Ads by themselves are just not going to do the trick. They're not going to make a big enough difference.
Okay, so let's talk about that, what we've just unpacked so far. So in terms of, so we've talked about actually putting the copy together, so having content on the ads themselves, and your website or your landing page, however you set it up, in terms of what you're directing to, kind of handling objections, so common reasons why people won't buy from you, and then addressing those in your copy with how you tackle them, or how you make prospects' life better, and how you're going to ultimately grow their business, or whatever their main ambitions and goals are. And then, which makes sense, as it can put people's doubts at rest, and I guess show them that your product or service is the one to bring that to life, and make whatever they want to happen. And then you mentioned being present on other channels. So if they hang out on Reddit, Instagram, and things like that, is that just as part of an overall marketing strategy, or is that because we then want to perhaps look at retargeting ads, or what's the importance of that?
Well, first of all, because even if you're not doing any paid ads on those channels, the fact that you're present where your potential customers hang out is reassuring to them that you actually know them and you know what they need. And later down the line, it's also great practice for retargeting, because if you say that traffic comes in from Google, like, great, so these people right now were searching for something that I offer, so there's a lot of intent in there. These people go then to the website, but they don't inquire, they don't buy. Have we lost them? No, we've not. Because if you have Google Analytics or any analytics, but I'm talking in particular about Google Analytics, and of course, also if you've got conversion tracking on, very important, you know that these people have come to your website but haven't inquired or bought from you. This is a specific audience that then you can use on other platforms. So when you're on Facebook, which owns Instagram, and you can say, hey, audience of people who went to this page but didn't buy, let me retarget you with this type of ad. Same thing goes for LinkedIn, same thing goes for Pinterest, same thing goes like for the majority of platforms. So it is and of course the content is different depending on the platform. We can't just use the same thing for it, because the use of the platform, the types of people on the platform, they are different, and they should be used in a different way. It's social media after all. It should be used like differently, but either way, it's the benefit is twofold. One's that even if you're not spending any money there, you are present where your customers are, and the second is the benefit of retargeting later down the line.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that makes sense, right? So I suppose if you're on the B2B game, are we talking about kind of hanging out on LinkedIn, putting out useful content there? So you're already kind of in your buyer's mind, providing actionable tips on whatever service you offer. So you've kind of built up some kind of authority there. And with those points said, is there anything else that we should look to have in place before we actually set the ads up themselves? Are there any other
absolutely. There's a long list, but I mentioned Google Analytics and I mentioned conversion tracking. That should go without saying that if you spend money on advertising and the ad is great, people go to your website, but you then lose them because you don't know what they're doing, it goes without saying that that's not the best use of your money, and it's a terrible idea. So please don't do it. So even if I'm going as far as saying that even if you are not running any advertising, having conversion tracking on your website properly set up is still a fantastic use of your time and resources, because it's still going to tell you what people do and what meaningful actions they take on the website and where they've come from. And Google Analytics doesn't tell you that, or at least Universal Analytics doesn't tell you that in its basic form. You have to set the second level up. GA4 is a little bit different, and I'm battling with that one right now. As you heard last week, we've got this amazing news that now I'm playing catch up, trying to reset everything up, and it works in a slightly different way. it's better in some ways and worse in other ways. So I don't know how I feel about it so far. It's mixed reviews.
I'm completely on the side with the analytics side of things. So essentially, I mean, if it's something you don't know how to do for your own business, then just hire your web developer if you've got one already, or your Google Ads specialist might be able to do it exactly. So that way you actually know what's actually going on under the bonnet of your website, like you say, Silvia, because otherwise you're completely in the dark. And I've said this on previous episodes, but we've dealt with many customers or prospects that have come to us and just didn't have a clue on what was going on with their website, didn't know what was converting, whether perhaps they're spending money on SEO, perhaps they're spending money on Google Ads or retargeting or something else, but they just didn't know what traffic that was bringing in, how many of those visitors were converting, how many were then converting from lead to then closed one deal. So just making sure you track all elements of the funnel, like you say, from visitor to conversion, whether that's a phone call, an email, a form fill, whatever that might be, and making sure that's all nicely set up.
Which was bringing me to the next thing that I was going to say. It's especially make sure that this is your as well. So I'm just saying what you would say. Make sure that your website is mobile responsive, people. I would go in as far as say the design for mobile first, because it's going to put you in a lot of disadvantage if you don't have that. I know that the percentage of mobile traffic varies from industry to industry and lots of other factors, but that doesn't mean mobile use has skyrocketed, and there's no indication that that's going to slow down. So if you are designing for the 2000s in 2022, the chances are you're nowhere to be found on Google search results because Google is going to think that what the hell is going on here? Why am I seeing a tiny minuscule like font on a tiny screen where it's supposed to be responsive? But on top of that, also obviously click to call, phone numbers, tracking, the basics, like make sure that it's very obvious how people can reach out to you wherever you are on the website. Even if you keep scrolling down on the same page, can you please make sure that on the screen I can still see where I can call you and where I can send you an email or something? Because I know it's, some people think it's a little bit too much, but honestly, there is a great book that is stood the test of time in website design called Don't Make Me Think. And Don't Make Me Think, like, you've got the option to have something there so that it's a lot easier for me to reach out to you. Make it easy for me to reach out to you. Please do that. It doesn't cost you anything. Plus it's your website, it's your 24/7 salesperson. Make sure that it works for you, otherwise what's the point in having it there?
That's it. Exactly. If someone's taken the time to search for, if they're clicking a Google ad, they're not always, but they're probably fairly far down the sales funnel, especially if you've linked up your search term to something that's kind of sales relevant, whether they're searching for your solution. And then if your website makes it really difficult to actually find how to contact you, or isn't clear on exactly, they're going to bounce off onto a competitor, quite rightly said. So yeah, making sure your website's up to scratch and considering, like you say, a mobile first design, or at least making sure it works smoothly on mobile, tablet and PC, just goes without saying now, because like you say, we see a lot of sites that still look terrible on mobile. Perhaps they're responsive, but they're just not great, and they're slow loading and they don't load all the content quickly. So just making sure your website page speed and mobile view is really crucial, like you said then. Yeah, so that's great. I mean, moving forward, is there anything else we need to get in shape or check before we talk about kind of more actionables on actually setting up the ads?
Yes, one thing last but not least, even though it's not specifically Google Ads, but it's definitely related to it. Please make sure that you know what's happening during the sales process. You know where the inquiries goes, you know who picks it up, you know what's the process from an inquiry to sale. Because if you say that you're doing a fantastic job with Google Ads, say that everything is working well for you and you're generating the conversions that you're looking for, and it's all going fantastic. And then one day somebody calls you and says, Google ads are terrible, what are you doing? And that's because, not because of Google ads, but because like the inquiries then dropped between being generated and the sale because of something that happened in the middle, because your sales process is leaky. That's not Google ads fault, but the blame is going to go on the Google ads person or the paid ads person or marketing, because they didn't generate enough inquiries. Where you have to track your inquiries, because because like it is important, because then you're showing that, look, this is the journey. Within the journey, Google ads is here. We have to do this to advance the sale. We are generating this much, but then somewhere here in the middle, between the inquiry and the sale, something is going drastically wrong. So it's useful also to pinpoint, to make sure, like, you've proven with data that the fact that somebody's feeling was that Google ads weren't working isn't actually true.
Yeah, such a good point. I mean, the amount of companies we've seen it happen with, where perhaps we've run SEO, perhaps we run ads, perhaps we've been working on their website, but their process wasn't airtight, in the sense that perhaps they'd get inquiries from their website, perhaps someone would fill out their request a consultation form or request a demo form, and then they wouldn't reply to them for like 24 hours. 24 hours is ridiculous to reply to an inquiry.
You can't do that. Not anymore.
Especially when most of your competitors will probably be replying within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that max. So speed to lead, like you say, is a great one. Chili Piper, who sponsor the show, and you've also got tools like Calendly that literally allow people to book time on a slot. They're right there on the website. So if you can't be asked to deal with an inquiry, just book a calendar tool. Otherwise, make sure you respond to your inquiries quickly, or it's not the Google ad management person's fault, it's yours.
Sorry,
not sorry. Cool. Yeah, that's good. So those some great points to make sure you've got your site ship shape and your processes ship shape before you start doing. Just before we talk about kind of some best practices of actually creating ads, creating the copy, and getting them live.
Yeah.
Google Ads versus SEO, which is better?
Don't make me laugh. That is the most ridiculous question that I've ever heard, and that I keep hearing, and I see lots of debate online about, no, SEO is better, no, paid ads is better, no, you don't understand, because, well, guys, the reality is SEO and PPC are complementary.
Yeah,
they do two separate jobs. It's not either or. They do two very different things. Although if somebody is not that into marketing, of course, because it's not their career, maybe they focus on something else, they might not know what the difference is, and they may not understand. Like, they're thinking, well, it kind of they're trying to do the same thing, which is generate traffic and inquiries for the company, so they must be the same thing. No, they're not. They are. You need both. The trouble is, most of the time, companies, especially the small ones, might not have the budget to do both. So they have to start with one and expand to the other. And the question is, well, which one should you do first? Again, it depends. It depends on the business. It depends on the budget. It depends on the niche. Maybe SEO is not that competitive in that niche, so you are going to rank pretty fast and it's going to be great. Or maybe it is highly competitive, so you need to show up in one of the first 3 results straight away, and maybe use those search terms to inform SEO. It depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need both. They're two separate things.
Yeah, I think you and I are on similar pages. I mean, I often compare Google Ads to renting a house and SEO to being like a mortgage. So the thing with Google Ads is, like you said, they're great. As long as you keep paying, your ads are going to show up,
yeah,
and you're going to get that click through.
No problem at all.
The moment you stop, you're out on your backside
Yep.
because your ads are no longer showing, just like renting a house and mortgage, long-term investment, just like SEO. You're doing that work on your website, off your website, to get that long-term page one organic position on Google. But like you say, they can complement each other. It's just like the property market. You can rent, you can buy, you can mortgage. SEO and PPC can work together. It also gives you 2 bites at the cherry. It's like you say, if you've got an ad running and you've got an organic page one, you've got 2 chances to win the visitor through to your site or your landing page. So it's a great point.
That's great that you think like that, because I hear and I've talked with lots of companies that are telling me, but if I'm appearing number 1 organically, why would I run paid ads? And I'm like, oh my God, this is because I mean, it does actually make sense if you don't know how it works. You think, why would you just? But you have to think about the way Google search results is now. So even if you are top, even if you're number 1 SEO, you still have, well, not on all searches, but on a vast majority of searches, you will have 2 to 4 paid spots before you. And that, especially on mobile, means that you have to scroll 3 or 4 times in order to get to the first organic result.
Yep.
So if you have to hope that the first, you have to hope that the paid ads are all absolutely awful, and they don't really give the person what they're looking for, so that they can scroll down to the organic one, because otherwise their attention is going to be caught by paid first, like on purpose, because Google designed it to do that. So I'm not saying that then what's the point in SEO? There is a huge point in SEO, but what I'm saying is you're forgetting that there are some paid results above organic. So make sure that you're there as well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems, rather, I think, that comes into play when talking to prospective customers or just business people in general is taking your own ego out of the question and realizing that your marketing is not for you. It's for prospects that you want to do business with. And if they're not familiar with digital marketing, they're not going to know the difference between a Google ad and an organic listing on Google. So they're probably just going to click the top ad. Yeah. Whereas if they have some experience, they might think, I'm going to skip the ads and click the organic. Or they still might click the ad and then click the organic. So you've got to take your own opinion out of the equation, test it out, and like you say, see what works for you.
It doesn't, So be in as many places as possible. That's the long and short of it. Be in as many places as possible and actually say something that is useful and relevant.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And you are likely to get the click, because most Google ads are not that good.
So let's take this. Let's provide some actionables, which brings us on nicely to, let's talk about some best practices, really, from kind of creating the ads to coming up with the copy and putting them live. So perhaps you could share some tips that work for you, Silvia, that you perhaps put into play for client accounts.
Yes. So my best tip is don't spend too much time building a complex campaign, because your assumption of what people are going to look for and what are going to search for might be right, but might also be terribly wrong. So start with 2 or 3 long tail, so 3 or more words in the keyword. So 2 or 3 keywords that are absolutely relevant to you, together with 3 ads in any ad group. 1 is responsive, the other 2 are text. Very important to have the text ones, because they're going to be phased out in June.
Right.
So you won't be able to create or edit existing ones. So we will only move to responsive, which means that that is the type of ad that you provide 10 headlines and 4 descriptions, and then Google is going to mix and match based on every single search.
Got it.
In that case, you won't have control of exactly what the ad says. The text ads, you do. So
Gotcha.
make sure you create as many as possible with the keywords that you've got, so that you can still turn them on and off when it will not be possible to create or edit them anymore. Just so that you have them there. And the best practice says that if you've got a keyword, and of course it has to be relevant, the keyword has to be in the ad, the keyword has to be on the landing page. Make sure that the copy matches. Copy matches the keyword, landing page matches the copy. Of course, the copy is short for the ad, but Google has to recognize that there is relevance between the keyword, the ad, and the landing page. The more Google sees that, the more you get something called a high quality score, which is a number from 1 to 10 that Google gives your ads and your keywords to say, hey, this is a great ad, so this is likely to do really well. Well done. You know your audience. You thought about everything. And in some cases, not predictable, not a rule, but the more relevant it is, the better it does. And usually, the cheaper it is to get a website visit. Of course, that depends on the industry, because cheaper in insurance is not the same as cheap in e-commerce. So there are certain keywords for law services are 60 or 70 pounds. Some clicks for example, for a campaign that I'm running at the moment, the average cost per click is 40p. So it depends, it massively varies, but I mean the relevance is preferred by Google. Of course, the higher the relevance, the better it is, the better click-through rate you're gonna get, which it's all better. So
Okay.
always remember to have this matching theme.
Let's paint a picture. Let's give an imaginary scenario that might bring this together quite nicely. So I know quite a lot of people tuning in are probably in tech or SaaS businesses. So let's say that we run I don't know, accountancy software company, and perhaps it targets, I don't know, SMB businesses.
Okay.
So what might be some best practices for a couple of things, I guess, looking at the actual search terms that we target with the Google ads, and then after that, perhaps we can go on to making sure that our actual ad copy, so the advert that appears in the search listings, beats our competitors. So then the prospect is more likely to click through on ours, go to our website rather than one of our competitors.
Okay. Are you looking for the actual ad copy on the spot?
No, I'm not. I'm just looking for some ideas of tips or potential things that we should consider.
Yes. Okay.
Just so we're not kind of, what I'm getting at, I guess, is that we're not going down jamming a load of keywords in that might be completely irrelevant for our business.
Yeah,
and might just be someone searching for, perhaps, let's say in the accountancy space, it might just be searching someone looking for advice rather than buying intent search terms, if you see what I mean.
Okay. So you said accountancy firm.
Yeah, I mean, we can do another example. That was just something that popped into my head, like an accountancy software was one that popped into my head.
I've got an example for that. So let's say let's take VAT returns online, right? So we've got now the opportunity for accountancy softwares like Sage, like Xero, etc., to help you do your VAT returns on the platform. So let's say you've got the keyword VAT returns, right? So VAT returns is too vague.
Right.
Although you think this is an amazing keyword, but it's not. Because if you look at it can be great for SEO, don't get me wrong, I don't know. But for Google Ads, it's not. Because the moment you search for VAT return, you're gonna see the definition of VAT return. You're gonna get the gov page, the HMRC page,
Yep.
You're going to get all sorts of stuff that you're thinking, what the hell is this? Why am I paying for this keyword? The reason why that's not good is because it's too vague.
Got it.
There is no intent behind the keyword. So if all of a sudden you're saying VAT returns online, or just VAT returns for the self-employed, if you look, I promise you now, if you go and look for that search, the returns you articles of people trying to teach you how to do it yourself. Some companies that have got articles that are then have been ranking because they're very useful, but then they're finalized to them actually getting an inquiry if people don't want to do it for themselves. So all of a sudden, because that for this specifies the fact that the person is that specific thing and is kind of trying to figure out how to do that thing, or if it's too complicated, how to give it to somebody else, that is something that you want to appear in front of, like that. You want to appear in that search at the top because the intent there is specified. So when you think about keywords that are 1 or 2 words, those keywords, I promise you, 99.9% of the time are too vague.
Right.
It's fine if you are a super huge business and you've got so much money that you can throw in a PPC that you can spend money there just for brand awareness. I'm happy for you. If you've got too much money, do it. But if you have got a limited budget to work with, go down the intent route. So then your ads are going to be something like, okay, VAT returns for the self-employed, submit online. And then the descriptions are more like, so these are the benefits. We help you with this. We have 24/7 support. You can have a dedicated account manager, and you show the benefits. Yep. But it would also be great to answer to the emotional side of it. Okay. So what is the outcome of this? Like, of course, you're gonna save more time, but also you're gonna be supported. You're gonna have this taken care of for you. So it's gonna take the stress away that you maybe done it wrong. That you maybe somewhere down the line, HMRC is gonna knock at the door and tell you, hey, you owe us X amount of money that you didn't account for. So it's a mixture of, okay, you got the keyword there, you got what you can do for them, but also the future state. How are they going to feel? Like, what's the emotion? Because that is not usually taken into account.
No.
That is really important because we've got a problem. We have a problem. VAT returns. Oh my God, I'm not an accountant. This is terrible. How am I going to do it?
Oh yeah, it's scary for me. That's why I hire an accountant to do it for me, because I'm terrible at maths. So if I did that, business would probably go under. So that's an interesting point, actually, and something I see a lot when I do any kind of Google search. Perhaps I need a product or service, like you said, quite generic ad copy, just like, we're the award-winning at this, or we're the best in service. We've been trading for 30 years, and it's like, every ad says that.
What are you gonna do for me? Honestly, I just don't care. And but of course, there's no point in creating ads that say all that and they're amazing, and then the website, the landing page doesn't match that. Because again, then you're going to have this amazing experience on the ads. Then they click on the website and they're thinking, what the hell is going on? So Google recognizes that, and in one of the columns that you've got in the Google Ads platform that talks about the relevance of the landing page, then you're going to see a terrible below average there,
right?
Which means that the ad and the keyword are not relevant to the landing page, which it then affects what we talked about earlier on, the quality, the overall quality score, which means it is a knock-on effect on everything else. Well, now, I talked about quality score twice. That doesn't mean that that's gospel, because I've got some keywords that have got quality score of 4 or 5 out of 10 that are doing amazing. But what I'm saying is, because Google doesn't know as much about the business as we do. That's why you always need the human element. But what I'm saying is, if Google gives you an indication that there isn't much relevance between your ad and the landing page, you should listen. And you should see, okay, which one is the least relevant? Is it the landing page or is it the ad? So fix one of the two.
Yep.
It's in your interest to have average or above average, because regardless of what the number of the quality score actually is, forget about that for a second. But the important thing is the relevance, is the fact that Google recognizes that stuff is connected and relevant to each other, because that makes the journey for the customer a lot better.
Okay, let's push this forward a bit as we come near to the end. So in terms of, let's say we've let's carry on the scenario we were talking about. Let's say we've set up a campaign, we've come up with some ad copy that we're testing out. I know you mentioned budget a little bit, and it, like you say, it can vary massively depending on industries. Some is very, very low cost per click pence, and some is several pounds or higher. Is there, in terms of actually assigning a budget to the ads, like a daily spend, is there a best practice for that? Should we go with what Google advises, or how do you kind of, especially if you're new to Google Ads, how do you realize, all right, I'm going to set this daily budget, and if it produces X, then I know I'm doing well?
So a good starting point for a campaign is £20 a day.
Okay.
And again, it depends on the industry. But if we exclude for a second the really expensive industries, £20 a day should be enough in the space of 2 to 3 months to have enough data to give you meaningful like overview and say, okay, this campaign is working or is not working, or is not working because let's make these changes. And I'm stressing again that £20 is an indication. So don't say, oh, this is the rule, it's always going to be £20 to start with. No, but in my experience, over the years, that has been a good starting point with the new campaign. Because the problem is, with the new campaign, you don't have data. And if you don't have data, throwing money at the wall is not usually a good idea, because Google is still in the learning phase. And they've got actually something called the learning phase of a few days, where Google is trying and testing what works and what doesn't. So spending a lot of money in that phase isn't the best use of your money. Now, Google also has something called the keyword planner that is giving you projections of, if you spend X per day, it gives you projections over a month. It's going to tell you, okay, so if you spend this much in a day, in a month you're going to get roughly this many clicks, and you're going to spend this much money. Of course, again, that's a projection, so it's not accurate all the time, but Google's got a lot of data, so it is usually very close to the truth.
Got it.
I've had a few instances where no, it was a lot cheaper, and I've had one instance where it was a lot more expensive. But they are usually pretty accurate on that. And you're gonna see there's this graph that is gonna say, okay, if you spend this much, and then you see the graph going up, and at one point you're gonna see the curve flatten. Whatever is the daily budget at that point, where the curve flattens, is where, if you're going to spend more money, it's not going to make a meaningful difference. So Google gives you that data. So at the beginning, go and check it out because it's useful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Google Keyword Planner, like you say, if you can get that data on what the rough cost per clicks are going to be, and get some intel around that, that's going to be helpful. So you can make informed
as
decisions.
long as everybody's on the same page that it is a projection and is not spot on what's going to happen, it is a great it's a great thing to do. And I'm saying this because I've had quite a few instances where, even though it was said multiple times, this is a projection, the client came back and said, oh, but you said we were going to get this. No, I said multiple times. And I've even got emails that use the word projections, not gospel. So yes, don't take anything as gospel, guys, because there's always the exception. You just have to go with data.
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing in marketing or advertising is guaranteed because we're dealing with humans. We're not dealing with robots clicking through and buying everything, every single click or every single view or anything like that. So that's.
I wish, like, honestly,
if we were, we'd make a lot more money.
if it was that easy, I would be rich by now and I wouldn't be working.
Yeah. We'd be over in the Bahamas sipping a cocktail instead of doing podcasts.
I would have houses all around the world. It'd be amazing. Unfortunately, not.
Maybe next year. But is there a certain time frame that you should say, look, I'm going to give this campaign X days, X weeks?
Yes.
And if it doesn't give me the return or the amount of leads, the amount of sales that I'm hoping for, then I need to make some significant change.
Yes. So within the initial phase, I'm saying the average is 90 days. So that's 3 months. But within those 90 days, the person managing your campaign is supposed to have done testing already. So you start with an assumption. Within a few days, if you're spending enough, of course, and you're getting data, you start to see if the assumptions of this is what people are searching for is correct or not. Then from there, you review your search terms. Your search terms are going to tell you if you're on the right track or not. If you're not, you have to make changes to the keywords. And you're also going to have a look at the ads that you've got running, because as I said, you need a list free, because that's A, B, and C testing. And which ones are generating the most clicks with the highest click-through rate, and why? Can you isolate that? Can you make an educated guess? Try and create another version of the ad that tries to improve on the best performing. And if within 90 days of doing all these adjustments, the campaign is still not returning what you expect it to return, bearing in mind that you have to make sure that your expectations are realistic. Very important to say. That is the sign that you either have got it completely wrong and you should turn the campaign off, or there is something that has to be done on the landing page. Because if you got the traffic and the traffic is relevant, then the next step is what's happening on the landing page.
Yep. Yeah. So where you're actually sending visitors to, they might be dropping off from
what's on the landing page. Have you got all the content that you need? Is it designed in a way that makes sense? Is it easy for people to inquire? What is missing? We're not doing something that the competitors are doing? Bearing in mind that I'm not really advocating for copy what the competitors are doing, but if you're going on their website and they're doing something really clever that you're not doing, I'm not saying copy it. I'm saying, can you do something similar? Can you do it better? Does it make sense for you? Because maybe it's part of their strategy and their strategy is not yours. So it's not just blindly copying them, but anything that can make the conversion easier.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the analytics come into play a little bit as well. So actually, as well as doing all these tips that you've shared with us on today's episode, also looking at your website stats. So how high the bounce rate is. So if someone's just coming onto the homepage and you see like 90% of people are bouncing off within a couple of seconds, then your landing page or your homepage or your website is not hitting the mark, and it's probably not giving people what they need straight away, whether that's your headline or your call to actions, or perhaps they just don't believe that you can help them fix their problem. Then you know that your messaging or your design or perhaps your website is not suited to mobile. So something needs drastic change in order for you to actually appeal to these people that are clicking your ads. So that's a great point.
Yeah, lots of things to think about.
That's it. Life's a game. So is building a website, and so is managing ads.
Yeah.
With that said, I think we've covered some good ground. I think we've covered some great points around kind of setting up a campaign, what needs to be in place beforehand, what you need to consider on your website, what you need to consider on your landing pages. So with that, Silvia, thanks very much for coming on the show.
No problem.
Really enjoyed the chat. Do tell us more about how anyone tuning in can get in touch with you, connect with you, or the best way to reach out.
Yes, so I am a daily user of LinkedIn. So the fastest way to find out about me and what I do is LinkedIn. I publish content every day, so you're gonna get a good feel for. Basically, it's gonna be a short replica of everything I said today. The style is the same, so the education side of it is the same, and I have published a book, and it's called Guess What? Guess the name. Are you ready for paid ads? So that is pretty much a longer version, much longer version of what we talked about today. And I'm actually starting a series of workshops. I'm going to do a monthly workshops on Google Ads. It's 2.5 hours long. The first one is on the 29th of March, so coming up next week, and just talking about, again, more in depth about the things you need to think about before setting up the ads, and also hands-on, so with the workbook and taking actually the time to do the work, and that then becomes an action plan for you to set up ads for your business. So my profile has got all this information, so if you have heard about something that you think is a little bit interesting, just reach out and I'll make sure to send you relevant links. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Silvia, no, thanks very much. We'll put all those links over on the show notes over at businessgrowth.marketing. And with that, thanks once again for coming on. Enjoy the chat. Cool. And as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe on your podcast channel of choice, or perhaps leave us a quick rating. We share actual marketing tips each and every week without the BS to help you grow your business and grow your revenue. And with that, we should catch you on the next one. Cheers.